The county executive, Anthony Picente, is in here. Whether we like it or not, this is a story everybody's talking about because it has all of the elements of.
Well, it's what we're about.
It is what we chase ambulances as humans, I think, and that's a shame. I was really shocked that you did your county, state of the county, and there weren't any massive surprises that
major
that had other people calling up and say, "I can't believe he said that," and
Well, they'll still say that about something.
They probably will.
They can, and that's there wasn't any. And I reference that usually.
No big bombshells.
No big bombs. Nothing surprising. But I mean, a lot of what we have in front of us today as problems that need to be solved, and I really feel strongly that some of these need to be done on a local level because I just don't see anything happening above us.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Are we still secure with everything? Hospital money, nano money, all the things.
Yes, we
keep hearing the stories of the government being, we're in a multi-billion-dollar deficit.
The hospital is, I expect the CON, sometime, this month. Actually, I think around I think what's today, the 12th? I think about 10 days from now, thereabouts, and so that's moving forward.
The deadline for the property owners.
Deadline is look, there has to be a deadline at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't keep going on and on and on, but it's been extended and things like that. So, and the nano money is secure as well, and they've had. Yeah, I referenced it briefly in my remarks because I felt if I didn't, everybody would think it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't alive, and it is very much alive and very much in play. It's just, our competition has changed a little bit whereas before, we were competing with other places in the United States. We're not doing that anymore. I mean, if the next fab built here in the United States I'm pretty confident it'll be built in Marcy because it is really the only. It's hard to believe, but it is the only major site of that size and capability right now. And the competition is out and. It's across the globe in China. And
I know you've met with. We have met as a county or whoever's doing the meeting that you've met with several. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Potential prospects.
Several. Yes.
And what are they telling you? We're not ready to move.
Look. It's goes back to this is such a big, and enormous industry with millions of dollars, and so the scope is about who's got the best offer on the table, and this goes back into the argument of economic development about you shouldn't give them money. Well, if you don't give them money, they're not going to come, and you're not going to land them. And so the offers in other places like Germany and China, and because the labor costs and everything else they have to deal with. Play a factor, but
here's an interesting.
Then it becomes where's the best place for a company to be, a particular company to be, and that's what they have to decide.
Here's an interesting little comparison. Mm-hmm. So Huntsville, Alabama, really lobbies big time. They come up with all sorts of tax incentives, money breaks left and right. Sounds familiar.
Sure.
To bring Remington Arms to Huntsville, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Their plan is after the first year, they'll be at about 1,100 employees. They plan to move to 1,500. After 3 years, they could be to 2,000 jobs. Mm-hmm. Right now, out of nowhere, the gun market takes President Trump gets elected. All of a sudden, it's not Hillary Clinton who's going to take your guns away. And the gun market just collapses. Now, there they are complaining in the newspapers in Huntsville, Alabama. Why did we spend all this money? We only have 300 jobs to show for it. Mm-hmm. We've spent all. Doesn't that sound quite familiar?
It does.
Do you blame them for taking the shot? Because had Hillary been elected, probably that gun market would still be a strong market because people would be fearing gun control. Mm-hmm. So a quick turn of the market, and all of a sudden you're looking at far fewer jobs than you had originally planned.
And look, that happens in any major industry like that, whether it's guns or technology, and especially technology. We saw what happened, in the early part of the decade, at the end of 2008, 2009, when the whole industry started taking hits and saw a decline, and now they're back up. It really is, but how do you know that? Nobody has that crystal ball.
So you have to take the shot.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
If you have the land, if you have the infrastructure, if you have the connections to make a site in that, in the way we have Marcy, it makes sense. And you have to keep everything
and you
on the
believe
table.
you are in the best position of anyone in the of any other community in the country to.
I do. And I had that conversation with Howard Zemsky, who's the state CEO of ESD, and he reiterated that look, our competition is not here. Being the United States, there's not at least in his opinion and others, that there's not another state that's going to steal it or eat our lunch or however you want to put it in that regard. But that the competition is overseas in different places, and those are hard to overcome. But still, nothing. The leads that we have in play have not made those decisions.
Right.
So
I want to go back to the hospital in a second, but ask you
just quickly, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. What President Trump has done with the tariffs and what he's done with reducing the tax on corporations.
Sure.
Do either of those help or hurt the effort at Marcy?
The tariff one, I really don't think it has or would have an effect. But again, I'm not that because I know it's more about steel and other things and other major commodity pieces. But the tax thing.
You're talking about what you give up for business,
right?
Yeah.
I think. Look, I think businesses. There's a mixed bag. That's another one that's really hard to put your finger on because 50% will tell you it's good for them. The other 50 will tell you they got to raise wages or do something else to deal with it. So I don't think it's having any effect on our ability to land anybody.
I want your take, if you would, on the No Hospital Downtown group. Brett Truitt has decided to purchase some properties, or at the very least one property over there. And it almost seems as if he wants to force an eminent domain court proceeding. What's your take on it?
Well, my take is...
Can he do that, by the way?
I suppose anybody can sell their property to anybody, or not. I suppose. I mean, that's fact. I mean, anybody, unless there's a current offer in play, then that gets into the question of whether you're accepting too many offers. That's something though that's independently and something that would have to be determined. But in that case, sure, anybody down there could sell. You would hope that they wouldn't, given the nature of the system and what's going on with the hospital, and at least getting that offer.
Has he purchased the property yet, or has he just put a purchase offer?
I believe he's put a purchase offer, and I believe that's one of the properties that did not allow an indoor appraisal by the hospital system, and therefore they've kind of, they've gotten what I guess you would call kind of a partial offer because it's based strictly on looking at the structure from the outside and not going through it. But so they have that ability now. The question becomes: does that change the eminent domain? I don't think it does. If everything else in the footprint goes, so I mean, you still don't. I mean, what's the argument then to leave one house in the middle of?
Well, we've seen those stories of the little old lady in the middle of the place that fights and is fighting.
But it's more like those happen more in areas of parking lots and not necessarily building footprints. And
so my question would be, though,
especially if it's a project this large.
Yeah, it does seem though that you were going down the road of avoiding eminent domain. That the other property owners, even if they didn't want to sell, realized to go through that whole proceeding probably wasn't the way to go. They'd be better off just taking an offer, and maybe the offer becomes a little sweeter. But this person seems intent on pushing you to go through eminent domain.
Well, and look, and some of them probably will in that regard. And eminent domain is more about, still comes down to, is there public use? That's the major question. Or is there public purpose? But
it would slow things down. It would cost you money.
Well, but it would slow things down. But look, there are probably going to be some that want to go through eminent domain because there are tax implications in that regard too, and there is such a thing as friendly eminent domain. processes that clear up and deal with legal issues and capital gains and some other things in a different way. So, especially when there's a project that magnitude, that there's multiple properties being assumed, or being acquired.
Mm-hmm.
So it could very well end up there anyway. And I don't really see his method as slowing it down or resisting. Right. And I think people get mixed up in the resistance of eminent domain, that I'm staying there, especially and again, I go back to a larger footprint such as this, in which this is not a spotted type of project that something can stay here, something can stay there. I mean, they're looking at this
major footprint,
and everything that's in that area.
What's your takeaway of this year's State of the County?
Well, I think it's.
What would you like us to take away?
Well, I think I'd like to take away that we again, it really focused on the issue of school violence. It really focused on mental health and guns and the things that are really about what's happening across the country today, the things that we, considering the events of last week and what happened at Utica College, the great job that UPD and the college and everyone did in responding. I fear we're going to see more of those. I think that we have to be as diligent and as vigilant as we can with those as UPD was and as the college was, and we have to step that up in our schools. We have a mental health issue that needs more resources, and I keep going back to the fact that as these things changed on the state and federal level, they reduced our spending, they reduced our ability to enact this, and so a lot of it was we're going to tackle some of these problems the best we can on our own, because I think we have to. And look, I still go back to what I said in that speech. Washington, Congress, 20. I mean, what is it? How many days is it now? I think since Parkland, nothing. Yeah, nothing, and nobody said anything either, other than pointing blame at each other.
We had Ed Schmidt on today, and Ed's belief that the first thing that has to be done is we have to make sure our schools are secure.
We do.
And you agree with that?
We do. I do. And I believe that look, our school districts, we had a great meeting the other day with BOCES, with Howard Middleman and Jackie Starks, the BOCES superintendent, almost all the districts present for that, along with several, just every law enforcement agency and other law enforcement providers and different agencies that deal with this. And so, everybody's been on top of this subject, obviously, but when we see these things happen the way they have, and I think we have to be even more secure. And that's why, we're going to look at, like we have in Whitesboro, special patrol officers, making them available at the schools, which are armed, which are not SROs. There's a difference between a school resource officer and a special patrol officer. So while school resource officers do a phenomenal job and are armed, and in most cases are deputies or police officers, yet are not charged with the security aspect of it. Right. So this is a little bit different. I want to do that.
Ed said that he really felt that we're ahead of the game in Oneida County.
I think we are.
Many schools already have a police officer at every entrance.
Many do, but it's more. It's more than that. Also, it's still about having the right plans in place, and I know that they go through drills, but it's also collectively having the right plans in place. One of the things I worry about in an incident like Utica College, and this goes globally on the public safety of everybody. You can't help but get, when you use the word paranoid in these situations, that if something's happening over here, and all our resources are sent there, what happens on the other side of the county, or what happens in other places.
Well, you had Utica College going on while there was an incident going on in Mohawk.
And you had one in Westmoreland too, a potential one, that you didn't know, and Holland Patton. That, again, the way that everybody reacts and the way that the plan is in place, so that the resources are not thinned out to that great extent, and what happens. And again, that's just on schools. Those are just school incidents. The other thing we have to worry about is the general safety of our people as a whole, in terms of in terms of fire, police, everything that goes on. It could happen at a business.
Would you say this was a pretty good opportunity to see everything in action? Obviously, we didn't have a real shooting, which is, thank God we didn't.
Right.
But it gave us a chance to see where we're good and maybe where we need a little help.
Right, and I think the Chief Williams hit it on the head and said that one of the things they did months ago was to have that drill.
Yeah.
Remember at Utica College, and when it was done, and that was publicized, and everybody saw that, and that was a good thing, and that really led to the organization that took place, because you do have to do those things. As much as our law enforcement is tops, I think our agencies are really have been and continue to be at the top of the list in terms of training, in terms of resources, in terms of what they need. Yet, if you're not doing those drills, and if you're not working with the community and the schools and the colleges and businesses, and that's why I talked about, we have to, we're at a point where daycare facilities, senior centers, churches, we're in a different world. Yeah. And so we have to be prepared in different ways.
County Executive Anthony Picente, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Sorry for the delay.